Hi, Kathy White, Certified Professional Agronomist, and I'm here to talk to you today about lifting and ergonomics. Chances are you're spending a lot of time at home and maybe you're trying to take care of some chores that need some effort in your home environment, and that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how to lift because ideally you're not lifting, you have some sort of material handling aid or you're able to keep objects in a level where you don't even need to lift them, but sometimes you're probably going to have to lift, and we're going to address that worst case scenario of lifting from the floor. So why is this a hazard? Why is this a concern? If you can imagine your body as a set of levers and kind of take that concept of physics to your body, what we're talking about is biomechanics, and basically the further a load is away from your body that you're holding, the more force your internal system is going to have to take to overcome that. So again, thinking about physics, and that distance creates what we call that lever effect, that torque, that turning force. And if we can get that load closer to the body, that is more of that ideal state. We're able to reduce that lever arm and reduce that torque or that moment. And that's what we're really striving to achieve in any material handling activity. We want to get that load close to the power zone, around that chest waist level, close to the body. So here we are in a situation where we're trying to lift a box off of the floor. Something really important is the preparation for the lift, and then we'll also talk about the lift itself. First thing you want to think about is what kind of footwear you have on yourself. And whenever you're lifting, it's a really good idea to have some supportive footwear, and closed-toed shoes are ideal. Next thing you want to think about is what kind of load are you handling? How much does it weigh? In this situation, I can probably read and actually learn what the weight of the load is, but in some situations, you may not have that ability. So it's a good idea to just bend down, maybe feel this a little bit before you even get to lifting it, so you understand if the load is balanced or not, and also how much does it weigh. At this point, you really need to make a determination as to whether you can handle this lift by yourself. And if you can't, it's a good opportunity to try to ask a family member to help you. Team lifting is a good topic for another time, but for now we're going to assume as an individual that you're able to manage this lift. You've sized it up, and you've also thought about your route. You've planned that accordingly. You're making sure wherever you're carrying this load is free of any obstructions in your way, no slip trip hazards along the route, and you know where you're going to place it at its destination. And now it is time to actually plan and take on this move and to actually lift. So I'm going to assume you don't have any knee issues. If you do, you're probably going to have to take on a different technique than what I am going to outline here. But assuming that you don't have any knee issues, you're going to want to get close to this load. You're going to want your feet about shoulder width apart, and the first thing you're going to do is make sure you brace this abdominal area. It's going to help keep your pelvis in a neutral position. You want to avoid rotating that pelvis during this movement, really keeping your body stable. And as much as possible, you want to keep that shoulder and hip in line with each other during this lift. You're then going to start to bend down using your knees for support and bending using your legs. And again, trying to maintain that natural curve of your spine, avoiding any rotation of this pelvis, and you're still bracing those abdominals. I now have my hands around this load. I'm pretty lucky I have handholds here that I can take advantage of. Definitely use those if you have them. If they seem to be sharp, it would probably be a good idea to get a pair of gloves and use those. If not, of course, think about how you're going to grip that load as you plan that lift. And as I move up here, I'm going to keep myself facing forward, head straight, slowly moving up, and I'm using my legs throughout that lift to be able to be safe without using my back to lift that load. You can now see I'm around that power zone, around that waist level. I can now move my route, carry the load. Ideally, my destination is also in that power zone. It's great if I have something like a table, or if I'm looking at a shelving unit, to be able to place that around that power zone height. If I do have to lower back to the floor, I'm going to follow those same techniques again, bracing the abdominals, keeping that pelvis neutral, using my legs, keeping that load close to my body, slowly moving down, releasing at the destination, and again, even without any load, pulling those legs back up. The reason all these techniques are really important and I'm only dealing with a pretty small load here, is a lot of times people do injure themselves with a load that's pretty small like this, and they wonder, how did something like that happen to me? Chances are there were some repeated lifting activities that took place without proper biomechanics, and that led to just some strain over time that eventually leads that final lift and what we call that proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. So that's why it's really important, no matter what the size is of the load that you're dealing with, that you're using those proper techniques, planning the load, executing the lift, and also lowering safely as well.